Hello, I am a high-ranking member of the Democrat Party. Let me explain what we are doing. We have to steal the 2024 election to save America from Donald Trump because we know better than the American people. They are as educated as we are. We need to save the average American from themselves because they aren't education. So we need to steal this election and we must silence voices. Because they are a threat to our democracy. We know better because we are highly education Democrats, so we know better than the average American, so we need to re-educate the Americans. That's after the election will place Americans who supported and voted for Trump has to be put to re-education camps to teach them and save them from themselves. So please understand, you must be saved from your ignorance. It's for the greater good. Yours truly, the Democrat Party.
Warning: this episode contains strong allegations against the United States government. This purely opinion and speculation.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Guess this is a long way from East Point.
Baby, you just gotta give it a chance.
We did it! We did it!
Tell me about your new neighbors. They're black. Do you mind keeping it down?
If you don't comply, I'll tell the manager.
Somebody's taking home security serious.
Hi! I am Karen Drexler. I'm your neighbor. You need to be taking your trash cans off the curb right when the trash is picked up.
Is she nice?
Yeah, she's nice.
Wait a minute. We have a white entitled neighbor named
Kamala Harris.
Karen, okay, enjoy yourself.
There she is, slaving away in the kitchen. I've come across some very suspecting teenagers.
Suspecting?
Can you please hurry up? Please, they're very aggressive, yep.
I left my wallet with my ID at home. Leave us alone, we didn't do anything.
How the heck did you end up moving to this neighborhood? Next thing you know, we have criminals. You take care of him, and I will take care of her.
Would you mind stepping out of the car?
My office has uncovered some disturbing information on her and her brother.
She doesn't like black people.
We have a search warrant.
Well, I'm black.
I know, she doesn't like you either.
I want to sell the house.
What I do? You can't tell me, huh?
We are living next door to a racist. You went in her house?
You wouldn't want your wife to know our little secret, right?
Please not. Stand, please.
In addressing serious allegations against the United States government, it is imperative to approach the subject matter with a discerning eye and an open perspective. Given the complexities of today's world, distinguishing fact from fiction can pose a significant challenge. Encouraging constructive dialogues and fostering critical thinking skills are vital components in navigating these intricate issues. It is crucial to bear in mind that the information we encounter may not always be trustworthy, hence the need to question and carefully evaluate what we are presented with. Let us continue to actively engage in discussions surrounding this captivating subject matter and sustain the exchange of ideas. We sincerely value your involvement in delving into these profound matters. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of today's conversation.
If you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Brandon, just speak to him.
Should come in his administration.
We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people.
We know you wanna kill Trump, then you'll kill Biden and blame it on us. Throw us in camps and lock us all up. Start World War III and blow us all up. Destroy the dollar, social credit score system. We told you before, we told you it was written. We told you it was coming and you still didn't listen. Have you heard Revenge of the Nerd to worship Lucifer?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Brandon, just speak to him.
He wants to get away with get rid of the ability of Medicare. The ability for
The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world.
They try to take Trump out like JFK because he wants peace like MLK. Already know what's next. Take him out like Malcolm X. New World Order, the devil doesn't rest. He knows his time is up and all he wants is death. And all we want is freedom. We're fighting to the end. They took a shot at Trump to warn Biden. They said you better step down or you'll be next in line then. So in the basement we will find him. But Michelle is next in line then. She's ready to be president and say, stand by, stand back and obey. Your time is up and put a mask on that face. What's your social credit score? And no, you can't say grace. You want meat? Nope, you can't even have a taste. You better know your place. Illegals are Americans, they're coming for your place. Don't worry about the future, it's all about today. And by the way, say hello to Hillary, she's your new VP.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Brandon, just speak to him.
coming in at his administration.
And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens. I call it Biden migrant crime. Our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy.
They can't beat us, so they have to kill us. It's because we are so honest and because we are the realest. No, we are imperfect, but we died for our freedom. God, family, country, no, we're not leaving. You can kill Trump, but you can't kill the idea of freedom. Many, mighty mo. Catch a commie by his toe. You can never take my soul. They try to kill Trump. Are you surprised? They try to kill you with the clot shot, but we're still alive.
They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him. Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. We're literally an uncivilized country now. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. Russia was made up. Just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up. Just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations and gave jobs. But he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves. We're a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump.
A couple surprises. Let me give you one bottom line. As a former government official, government's going to kill this guy.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Most importantly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Trump is a threat to this nation.
Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it.
what's happening next? Visit Infowars.com/show and share the link today.
There's a lot of people in this country that were feeling really divided about Robert Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump. I know Robert Kennedy Jr. is the guy that's going to clean up this vaccine problem and the pharmaceutical industry and all the corruption in our government, but I just don't think he can win. And Donald Trump, on the other hand, doesn't fully seem to understand all the issues. He wants to change them, but does he really have the in-depth insight that Robert Kennedy Jr. does? So it was really a lot of powerful people that brought these two together. Callie and Casey Means, right after that brilliant interview they did with Tucker Carlson, were reaching out. And so unlike, I think a lot of people remember Robert Kennedy Jr. was offered to run a vaccine safety commission by Donald Trump in the first election. But then he went out in front of the CNN cameras and said, hey, I've been asked to run the Vaccine Safety Commission. And then that got reneged like 3 or 4 hours later. Bill
Gates swooped in.
Scared Trump and who knows who else. And suddenly oh no, Robert Kennedy Jr. was mistaken. That's actually where I got involved with Robert Kennedy. Like, the inside baseball on that. I had vaxxed. We were starting to tour the country and we were out there. We were, making a lot of progress. But Robert Kennedy Jr. had this giant phone call with a lot of people that were in the space saying, he just basically called me a liar on television. I'm not very happy about it. I'm a Kennedy. I'm not supposed to allow someone to talk about us that way, as though somehow I misunderstood. But I was in that think tank and just kept giving my thoughts. And I was saying, Bobby, Donald Trump's the only president that has ever said he believes that vaccines cause autism. He's the only one that's really looked at vaccines and saying something needs to change. Maybe we're giving too many too often. Maybe there's studies we can do. Maybe we can test people before they get the vaccines to see if they have susceptibilities. He had those thoughts. I said, we don't want to burn that bridge. And looking back now, I'm really glad that we didn't. Looking back now, I don't think Donald Trump really fully knew how corrupt the whole space was.
He said that. Trump said he didn't know how bad it was.
He did not know.
And now, not just the words, but the actions and the leaks. The establishment is apoplectic. I mean, they are so scared of this brain trust coming in, and it's not going to be a bed of roses. Nothing's going to be perfect, but this is exciting.
It's very exciting. And really, one of the things I want to say is this, that there are a lot of people that will have to be replaced. There'll have to be people to be hired. But there's things that are going to happen on day one. I know about it. And here's the inside baseball. It's not a lot. There are databases that our government is hiding from the world. The VSD, the Vaccine Safety Data Link, has 10 million people in it. It's how they study all of their different drugs and things that they do studies on. Well, all we wanted from the beginning is just do a vaccinated versus an unvaccinated study. Take all of the vaccinated people in that database and then, compare them to all the unvaccinated and ask, who has more cancer? Who has more diabetes? Who has more,
similar to the leak we got out of New Zealand.
Right, exactly. So one of the things that's going to happen right away, and think about this, Alex, even if you weren't able to change a single scientist or doctor or corrupt person in there, which I know is going to happen, one thing that will happen immediately is all those databases are going to be made public. Just like we fought and made the Pfizer data public, Naomi Wolf is now able to do the work, and scientists are looking at it because they've got the data and can start crunching the numbers. We've got AI. We've got Elon Musk. We've got computer learning. We're the home of Apple. We're the home of Microsoft. We're the home of Google. So what happens when suddenly all the data that's been hidden on what the heck is happening to us, whether it's the color in our Fruit Loops that is illegal in other countries, but we're eating it here, we're going to have answers to what's doing that to our health simply because those databases are going to be made public the way they should have always been. We're talking about this one thing Donald Trump's going to do because it's at no risk whatsoever. What Robert Kennedy Jr., they're going to take these databases and say no longer is this hidden from the public. This is going to be a transparent government. This is a government for and by the people, and let the people look at this data. Let the scientists around the world crunch these numbers and tell us what's poisoning us, what's killing us, because we have gone from 12% chronic illness in the 1980s to now 60% of our population have a chronic illness, either a neurological disorder or an autoimmune disease. We are the sickest nation in the world. Fact. We have the sickest children in the world. Fact. We have the sickest generation of children we've ever seen in this country. Fact. We are doing something wrong. And you've got people say, well, Del, how do you know it's vaccines? How do you know it's not the colors and the dyes in our Fruit Loops?
It's all
How do you know it's not the hormones in our beef or the glyphosate sprayed over all of our vegetables? And I say, no matter what it is, it's the same regulatory agencies that are passing it. Whatever it is, it's the fault of the CDC, the FDA, NIH, Health and Human Services. You're sick because they said something was safe that should never have been allowed into your body or into your air, into your food, into your water. And finally, we have people going into government that know exactly how to do this. Do you realize we will have the answers to vaccines? If you believe they're safe, all you'll have to do is run a decent AI program into that database, 10 million people, and just say, who's sicker? Who's healthier? Just go ahead and ask the question.
And again, we already know what
we know what that is.
New Zealand and what other government it came out.
New Zealand's got some interesting studies, but some Norway has had some interesting studies, especially around the COVID vaccines. But in the end, they can have this answer, and you have to know. I've said this to begin with. When we went to that meeting with Robert Kennedy Jr. that Donald Trump set up in 2017, we were at the NIH. They said they weren't doing any safety trials using placebos on vaccines, which is the most egregious thing to admit there is. We said, okay, fine. If that's unethical, why won't you do a comparative study of the vaccinated and the unvaccinated in that database? Then we'll have the answers. And they said, we don't know how to do that study. And this is what I've said from the beginning, Alex.
Right.
You know they've done that study everywhere.
They're obsessed with it.
They've done that a million times.
It's target accuracy.
Manipulate that data in a way that actually shows that vaccinated are healthier. Because if they could, it would be every headline. Comparative study, the biggest database in the world shows vaccinated are healthier than unvaccinated. Alex Jones is done. Del Bigtree is done. Robert Kennedy Jr., we never have to hear from him again. Why have you never seen that headline? Because no matter how you slice it, vaccinated people are sicker than unvaccinated. They know it, and they cannot figure out how to do that study to show otherwise. Well, that study is going to finally get done. Those databases are going to finally open up, and now the world will know the truth, and what they'll know is, holy cow, our governments have been lying to us. They've been poisoning us. They've been killing us, and they had this information the whole time. And we're right there, Alex, and right now, we've got to put aside our differences. We got to stop squabbling. Right now, I'm seeing people saying, well, why are we talking poison food? I notice Robert Kennedy Jr. is not talking about vaccines now. I mean, he just dropped everything, and they're making arguments.
The poison food's another huge issue.
It's a huge issue, and by the way, you're going to figure out what's going on with that the same way with drugs and guns or whatever else.
And we're knowing it's the tobacco industry, and even before that, it's the same industry. They've been making it addictive for 80 years.
We are so close, Alex. We are this close to taking back this country, and frankly, Donald Trump is that. He's that sledgehammer to pound through the wall. Yeah, so I just want to say about Robert Kennedy Jr. They say you should never meet your hero. I actually got to work 18 months side by side with that guy, Alex, and he's the real deal. I mean, he really is the real deal. That guy is as genuine as it gets. Everyone saw these deep, profound answers in all the long-form podcasts he's been doing since all of mainstream media wouldn't let him on at all. I mean, it was really just a total blackout by
He's a mile wide and a trillion feet deep.
Yeah, and so, I mean, he got to show the world that, and so it was really a blast working with him and to get the world to see who he really is. I mean, after spending over a decade just being labeled anti-vaxxer, you know, for people to see this is a guy that writes history books. He has a knowledge of what makes the world tick and had really good thoughts. And now to think he's coming together with Trump, who's just this powerhouse. But I think we're going to see a really different Trump presidency now with what I call it the dream team. We're calling it Freedom Force.
Harris, let's get one thing crystal clear. The vast majority of American men have no issue with electing a female president. Our issue lies solely with you. You were second in charge of California for 13 years.
As California's Attorney General, Harris promoted enforcement of a law that allowed prosecutors to seek jail time for parents of truant kids.
As a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
I thought that was crazy. I was like, how can you lock parents up?
If you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
I opened the door and I see at least 7 or 8 cops that wanted to arrest me. As a matter of fact, they did.
And frankly, you know the prosecutors in my office who volunteered to do this? My homicide prosecutors, my gang prosecutors. And they went over there and I said, when you go over there, look really mean.
She had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital and had missed some days of school.
I learned that with the swipe of my pen, I could charge someone with the lowest level offense That person could be arrested. They could lose time from work, and their family maybe lose their job. They'd have to come out of their own pocket to help hire a lawyer. They'd lose standing in their community.
I lost my job and couldn't pay rent, and we got evicted.
Weeks later, I could dismiss the charges, but their life would forever be changed.
I became homeless. We had to move into a motel.
All because of the swipe of my pen.
I don't agree what Kamala Harris did to my mom, and I don't agree with what she's done to other parents as well.
You were second in charge of the United States for 4 years.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Inflation is hitting the highest level in 39 years. A record high number of illegal crossings.
Crime's been surging across the nation.
Huge spikes in homicide.
Could we be heading toward World War III?
After 17 years of failed leadership, you are now asking us to trust you as first in charge of our country.
I am concerned and focused on big issues. Elementary and middle school truancy is actually a big issue. If we're trying to save the state money, because of truancy, California public schools lose $1.4 billion a year in funding. I want money.
My message to all Americans: do not trust Kamala Harris.
As men and protectors of women and children, you are simply a risk we are not willing to take.
Paid for by Maha Alliance and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
After the evacuation of all individuals, the Democrats returned to the counting area while the Republicans headed back to their headquarters. Unbeknownst to them, the Democrats had already begun counting again. Officials referenced supposed leak issues as the reason for the pause, but it was likely a cover-up. The Republicans left their observers behind and relocated to their headquarters, allowing the Democrats to resume counting. A later video revealed the Democrats re-entering the tally room and extracting items from underneath the tables, indicating that the counting had indeed continued during the evacuation. Numerous organizations were partaking in a deceitful scheme aimed at influencing the election's outcome by hiring individuals to gather and transport various types of ballots, including absentee ballots. These hired canvassers were assigned the task of driving through specific areas to collect ballots and place them in designated ballot boxes. This unlawful operation involved obtaining ballots from senior housing facilities, returning at a later time to retrieve them, and then submitting them. The ultimate goal of this illicit plan was to manipulate the election by interfering with the ballot collection process in states such as Georgia.
Like the whole thing with the dome when they was counting, that was the big thing here, was the counting of the ballots at the dome. It was all counting the ballots, and they told them that it was a leak on the opposite side of the dome. Everybody needed to evacuate. So then when they all left, the Democrats went back in and started counting, and the Republicans went back to the headquarters. They didn't know.
You know that for a fact?
That's what happened. Yeah.
They made it seem like nothing like they legitimately had leak issues.
Yeah, so they had said it was leak issues. So you see them on the video putting everything up, and they left. No, they did. They put someone putting stuff up, and then you see them leave. Then they was out in the parking lot when I guess they told them they could come back in. Or they was out in the parking lot and they was gonna go back to headquarters, and so the Republicans left. The Republican watchers, they all left, and so after they left, the Democrats went back in there and started counting. So that's the videotape. You see them when they're walking back in, pulling the shit out from underneath the tables, and during that hour. And then the other part was that when they were counting, I think during that hour, that stretch of that, it was only like less than 100 votes was counted for Trump. And just statistically, you're downtown, there's going to be more than 100 votes for Trump. That's what happened in 2020, because that's when the ballots, and they started stuffing them ballots, and people stuffing them ballots, and they got videotape of it. But nobody talks about it, because that's why Trump been making that big deal about it, because you see it on videotape. It's like, come on. We see the man pull up and put 100 ballots in his box. You know, you can't do that shit. So groups was paying people to do just that. Drop off ballots, go around, collect ballots, collect absentee ballots, drop them off.
How did that even
forge them?
Where, okay, so if you're paying someone, I'm not trying to do this, trust me, but if you're a group and you're paying someone to pick up the absentee ballots, do people take their absentee ballots to the orgs and then the orgs distribute the pay? That's confusing. It doesn't make sense.
No, it's like, let's say you're my canvasser, I tell you to go around and pick up these absentee ballots from this area. You know, you go pick them all up and drop them off in the box. You know, no different. I pay every week like a canvasser. You just get paid like a canvasser. You know, you're on the clock for however many hours, driving around, picking up absentee ballots and putting them in ballot boxes.
What information do you need to actually know that these are certain areas that have a lot of absentee ballots?
Oh, I mean, when that's the case, you would just have to have, you would either have to reach it, like some groups was reaching out to the folks beforehand, so they were passing them out to other people and then coming back and getting them all. Going down to a senior house, give everybody a ballot and come back and collect all their ballots and turn it in on them. And then you take the ballots and then drop them off.
And then the groups would have whoever, the canvassers go and pick them up and then take them straight.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's the illegal part. So think about it like this: if you're going to steal an election, let's say Georgia, this is the perfect example. You're going to steal an election here. You're not going to go to the outside of the Democratic Party, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to go outside of Atlanta or outside the metro Atlanta and change the numbers in the Republican counties, right? Because that should just be too obvious. Change the numbers in your home. You can fluctuate these numbers because it'll just look the same.
It makes more sense to do it in Atlanta.
It hides better. So like if somebody's coming behind you and saying, well, you know, you've been stealing votes, the first place they're gonna look is in the outline counters where it's red. Don't change those numbers, right? Because then it'll flip that county that's always been red to blue.
Which will raise that flag.
Which will raise that flag.
Okay.
If you come here to the city where it's already 1.5 million voters, and then you just increase the numbers of your already places that you want. So you want to inflate the numbers that you already have versus trying to go to a red area and inflate those numbers, because that would just obviously look wild, you know?
So you need to start planning in 4 years in advance.
Yeah, you're trying to steal an election. Yeah, because you got to get a lot.
Dude, it makes sense, because after 2016,
you got to pay a
people
lot.
are mad.
You got to pay a lot of people to get in the pockets. You know, a lot of people, people that you got to get in position. You got to get, everybody got to get a piece somewhere. Everybody got to get paid. Canvassers, ballot counters, people who run the drop boxes, election officials. You got to put all of that on somebody's payroll. Or a kickback or something somewhere.
In
the movie, they didn't. In the documentary, they never said what groups. They just said investigations was being launched into different so they never mentioned.
They didn't name the orgs.
They didn't name the orgs, but they
all this is
so
crazy.
I just always been waiting on that to drop, because I was like, well, yeah, they're gonna do an investigation, and they got the evidence, because they were showing that in the documentary, the closed caption TVs of people pulling up. I told somebody when I got to the office, because one of the cars in the video I recognized, because they always at the building.
Who was it?
Oh, I don't know. I think it was a union member or something.
Probably.
But that was like when I first started. They just had one of them weird cars that
stood out.
That stood out. That I was like, I know who that. I was like, yeah, that's rare.
That's when he was up there all the time, though, too.
Yeah, that's when I first started. So I don't know who car that really was. But
are they still up there?
Nah, after I told them, I never saw the car again.
Dude, that's so crazy. I'm telling you, this dude kind of looks like you. I was like, hold up. When I seen that, when sent me that picture, I was like, that better not be him.
No, oh hell no.
I was like,
no.
But no.
But yeah, I knew they were doing stuff like that though. Because that's how they did. That's how they got one of the mayors in. They was dropping ballots in the boxes and stuff. Normally how they
around here.
Yeah, in Metro Atlanta. For the mayor's race in Atlanta. So what they normally do is how they do it. You know, when you're trying to steal a race, you're not trying to, like if you got Republican districts and Democrat districts, you're trying to get the Democrat right elected. What they do is they don't go to the Republican. What's up, boss?
So how you know they're gonna do it again in 2024 though?
What? Get all that they not on ballot? Oh, and harvest them ballots and shit.
Yeah.
That's why the Republicans are always trying to fight about, you know, that's the argument of the whole thing is because Republicans, they're the ones who put out that kind of stuff. So they want to do like voter IDs and stuff. But Democrats will, you know, fight voter ID laws. So you know, so it's that two-sided thing. That's what they fighting over. Republicans are trying to say like, hey, look, we got the proof of this shit, you know. And the Democrats are like, well, we don't want voter ID laws, and we want to make it where you can just drop your ballot off, online voting, different things that they try to come up with.
Dang.
So that's the two sides. The two.
Yeah, they go back and forth.
Yeah, so that's why it's always something about voter ID laws. And then the Politico just wrote an article about New Georgia Project. I'll let you read it. It's deep. It's when you see it, you'll be like, oh. I took a screenshot of it because I sent it to all the staff earlier this morning. Yeah, I read the article, but yeah, I know what it's saying. I know it's saying. I know all of them. So when shit happen like that, I just be like, okay, and keep it pushing. When I saw that article, I was like, okay. Yep, about time, I figured that.
So I know it's hard to get fired from an actual nonprofit, though.
Yeah.
They don't be firing nobody. Like, you gotta be doing something real strange to be fired.
Yeah, you gotta really be doing some wild shit.
Very happy to welcome my guest, Ricky Williams Jr. He's speaking out after his wife, Bev Williams, was prosecuted by the DOJ for her pro-life activism and sentenced to 41 months in prison for obstructing an entrance to an abortion clinic. You can follow Ricky on X at Mr. Ricky Victory, and that's Ricky spelled with an EY at the end. Thank you so much for joining us, Ricky.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
It's the least we could do. It's incredibly troubling and heartbreaking what's being done to peaceful protesters in America, especially with the FACE Act, which was deliberately designed and is being used to imprison people for sometimes standing outside of, sometimes sitting in front of, blocking the door of abortion clinics, getting more jail time than thieves and actual criminals. Just tell us what your family has gone through and what's happened to you, what's happened to your wife, and how she got 41 months in prison.
Sure. So, okay, the DOJ has, when someone is indicted, they release documents on that. Whether the jury comes to a conclusion, that's the DOJ is going to basically release documents on that, a press release on that, and also with the sentencing. So when they mentioned that my wife was obstructing the door, that's completely false. Our lawyers had to fight tooth and nail to get evidence in which the evidence showed, in the video showed that my wife was not obstructing the door, but the government, what they wanted to do was slice and dice the video, in which they did throughout the trial. And they made it look like my wife was obstructing the door when she was not, when there were counter protesters there that day. Planned Parenthood had counter protesters there that day. And they were the ones standing in front of the door. My wife was the one standing in front of the counter protesters. She did not chain herself to a door. She did not she was not blocking the entrance in the sense of where women were not allowed to come in and out. It was none of those things happening that day. And this is a complete travesty for my family. Obviously, for the past 2 years, dealing with this case, using the FACE Act, the law that was passed by Bill Clinton, ushered in by Chuck Schumer in New York, and a little bit of Republicans also agreed to that bill. And it's a bill that to me personally should not be in law. It should not be in law today, especially that Roe v. Wade was sent back to the states. The Dobbs decision was sent back to the states. And it's the judge made it clear. She made it very clear that she wanted to make an example out of my wife.
Right.
And she had the opportunity on February 13th of this year to watch the 2-hour video. The jury was not given the opportunity to watch that video, but she did. In that video, the NYPD officer said, a NYPD officer stated that they're here many times, 20 to 30 times, and they never block the door. They never stop anyone from coming in and out. They're just practicing their First Amendment right. That was not allowed for the jury to see.
It is totally brutal. And, you know, the excuse with the FACE Act is, well, it applies to both sides equally, but obviously none of the pro-abortion protesters were arrested that day, right? They can go, they can cause trouble, and it's your wife that has to pay the price. And I mean, we've seen examples of this. We've seen, you know, father of 7, Catholic guy, this door kicked in the middle of the night, guns pointed at his children because he stood outside of an abortion clinic. It's even worse in the UK, where they have, and this week, it's like a big story, thought crime, now a reality in the UK, where they are actively arresting people for praying silently in front of an abortion facility. That's it. And they say that it could, you know, very quickly come to the point where having some sort of pro-life meeting at your own home would be illegal. Obviously, this is where things are going. We're like one step away from that with the FACE Act. And it's clearly about chilling our ability to speak out publicly and exercise our First Amendment. It's just unbelievably brutal, the way they're treating everybody, but your wife in particular, 41 months in prison. Again, yeah. You know, it reminds me of like hate crime laws or something, where it's like, look, if a crime was committed, if something happened, if someone was hurt, okay, you know, then you get a slap on the wrist, you get a fine, whatever. You don't go to jail for 41 months for standing outside of a place. I mean, this is absurd. How are you dealing with it? And how's your wife dealing with it?
My wife is doing good. She's taking this time and she's like, you know what? I'm just going to treat this like a boot camp. I'm going to work out. I'm going to eat good in there. And she's lost weight. So she's a huge influence in there right now. Actually, she's Alice Johnson. I don't know if you remember who she is, but Trump pardoned Alice Johnson. And she was at that same prison, federal prison in Alabama, Aliceville, Alabama. And a lot of the guards there tell her, hey, you remind me so much of Alice Johnson. You remind me so much of her. And a lot of inmates that have been there for a very long time say the same thing. And my wife's cell is the same cell of Alice Johnson. So a lot of people in there are optimistic regarding her. They're shocked that she's in there for unlawful assembly. They're like, this is ridiculous. And you know, they're like, you're not going to be here for long. You're not going to be here for long. But my wife is just taking it a day at a time. As for myself, obviously, it's a huge adjustment for me and my daughter. It's a huge adjustment. And I'm going to be honest with you, for the first 2 or 3 days, I was just out of it. I mean, you got to create new routines and new system in the household and figuring things out. And that's just, you know, the toughness of that, the difficulty of that. But you know, we're getting through this. We're getting through this one day at a time. And I have the opportunity to speak with her, email her, video call here and there. And God willing, hopefully I'll see her this weekend. But we will get through this. And I believe the truth will come out regarding this, because this is a political weaponization of the justice system by Biden, by Harris. And this is nothing new that Harris has done throughout her career. Either as prosecutor, district attorney, or attorney general. And she has a rap sheet of tearing apart Black families. And the American people need to know this about her. And if she becomes president of the United States, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, and they do this. They take something like the FACE Act, which never should have passed in the first place, but they use it to, as you said, you know, make an example of people. They are fine with destroying lives, destroying families, putting people in prison when they don't deserve it, because they feel like, well, that's a sacrifice they're willing to make, right? They're willing to sacrifice your family and your wife to make an example of her, to stop other people from doing this in the future. I mean, this is full-fledged tyranny. There's no other word for it. It's brutal and horrific. And I always get the feeling that people don't Like they just can't see tyranny for some reason. If it's not presented like a Hollywood movie, if they're not goose stepping down Main Street, hailing Hitler, people don't think it's tyranny. This is how it works. This is what it looks like. It's laws that are, passed under false pretenses, that are applied where they shouldn't be applied. It's innocent people being thrown into jail for 2+ years. That is a brutal and unnecessary punishment for what is essentially a non-crime. Why did your wife think it was so important to do this? Not questioning it. I do think it's important, but what was her motivation, since she can't speak for herself to us right now? Why did she think it was so important that she put herself in harm's way and risk her freedom to stand up against abortion?
So my wife herself had about 2 or 3 abortions when she was younger, and her experience in that was a traumatic experience. And she never was, she isn't the type of person to look down on other people or judge them. She wants them to think about what they're going to do before they do it. When Governor Cuomo passed legislation in New York City allowing abortion up to 9 months, it was my wife and Edme, who was her co-defendant, who was found not guilty on all counts, who did the same thing she did that day, by the way. They decided to take their ministry and go in front of Planned Parenthood and warn people and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and actually expose Margaret Sanger. And they were very successful at that. Right. Their voices were very effective. In Lower Manhattan, they had something called Margaret Sanger Square. Yeah. And they changed the whole entire name because of their voices out there and exposing Margaret Sanger as a eugenicist that she is. She is a complete witch. Yeah. She's a witch. And they're calling Trump Hitler, while they support Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger's vision. And to me, it's crazy, but that was what really caused her to basically go out there and lay her life on the line for those who don't have a voice for themselves and to warn women. She has a love for women, and she wants them to know, hey, there's another way to go about this. This is the way you should go about this. We want to help you. I love you. Let me pray for you. And that's what that was. But on top of that, exposing a lot of the lies that were going on in 2020. Everybody was protesting in 2020. BLM was protesting in 2020. They were not blowing up stuff, but they were they were blowing up stuff throughout different parts of the country and buildings on fire. So when my wife says, hey, we're going to terrorize this place, they take that out of context. She was talking from a spiritual standpoint. She wasn't talking from a place of actually terrorizing people. Obviously, we have a First Amendment right. And in that, we should have the right to speak what we want to speak and say what we want to say. But what was the intent? Did she actually terrorize the place as what you're seeing right now? Mm-hmm. No, she did not do that. She did not do that at all.
Right. And we saw after Roe versus Wade was overturned, dozens of pro-life places burnt down. Not a single, I don't know if an investigation was ever launched. I mean, none of those people have been arrested. They actually terrorize. They actually burn places down and, threatening graffiti and destroying property. And of course, the people in 2020, like, it's so absurd. Not only were they actually committing violence, were they actually destroying things and actually terrorizing people. The recent thing that happened with them is they all got $30,000 because they were arrested and the judge decided they were mistreated by the police. So they'll get a $30,000 check from the city. Meanwhile, your wife, who didn't hurt anybody and didn't, really, at the end of the day, break any laws. It's the First Amendment. She's allowed to say whatever the hell she wants. And she's sitting in prison for 41 months. It's so outrageous. And then you point out the fact that New York legalized abortion up to 9 months. It's another one of these things that during the presidential debate, they claimed that wasn't true. They claimed there's no way, that's never happening. It will never happen. They've passed the law. They are doing this. Talk a little bit about that 9-month abortion. What is it about abortion that leftists love so much? Why are they so dedicated to it? It's their only, topic of conversation now. They love abortion. It's all about abortion. Half the women that you see interviewed on the street are voting for Kamala because of abortion. I mean, this is spiritual sickness, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And my wife being a voice out there, it obviously got someone upset. It obviously stopped a lot of abortions from happening. And a lot of undercover videos have come out about Planned Parenthood and how they are selling body parts. Yep. Kanye West even came out and mentioned it, how this is the #1 killer in the African-American community. And obviously, as for myself, who's African-American, and my wife, that's not the reason for our cause, but we have to address that. We have to address that, how we are I'm not sure how much of the population that we are, but we're the biggest consumers. So from the time that we're in the womb, you're selling our body parts to the time that you get what I'm saying? To the time that we're dead and deceased, we're consumers. So that should anger African Americans. That should anger you that Kamala Harris wants to use this as her campaign and lie about basically, oh, I'm about women's rights, when the reality is that you look at Sherry Peoples, who she arrested and for not having the truancy program, I think, in California, and she went through so much. And my wife is going through the same thing, and these are African American women. So Kamala does not care about Black people. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about African Americans. She will put abortion up as a cause for right now, but the reality is she's not for any of those things. She says that she is, but she's really for totalitarian dictatorship. And all those pastors, praying and all those things, they're bought and paid for. And one thing I want to say is Letitia James sued my wife and Edme in 2020, told them they could not go in front of that clinic in Lower Manhattan. My wife never went back. There were no issues regarding the FACE Act on the state level. There were no issues regarding a hand caught in the door, none of those things. My wife didn't take the lady's hand and smash it in the door. She didn't do that. They hit my wife with the door, and then the door ricocheted off of her and got caught in the door. So it wasn't intently, she says, okay, that's the day I'm going to go smash someone's hand in the door. That was not the case. And again, a lot of the evidence throughout the trial, a lot of the video throughout the trial, we had to fight to get in, and a lot of it we could not get in. So.
Right, that is one of the details of this that I've seen leftists harp on. Well, she smashed somebody's hand in the door, as if that is, justification for 41 months in prison. Like, even just taking their argument at face value, just for the sake of argument, assuming it's true, it's like, okay, so there was like a scuffle and someone's hand got caught in the door. It's like that happened to my kids this morning. They just, one of them slammed their hand in the door. It's like 41 months in prison. For that, that's absurd. It's even if everything they said was true, which is you're pointing out, it's not. But even if it was, it's not justification for 41 months in prison for a mother with a young daughter. I mean, it's it really breaks my heart. And Letitia James, I mean, you want to talk about a witch, you want to talk about a menace to the American people. She is an ogre, and it's unbelievable that she's able to do all. I mean, she just dedicates herself to destroying media outlets. She's gone after us. She's gone after, other independent media outlets. She goes after you and your wife. She's gone after Donald Trump. I mean, she has dedicated her entire career to going after Republicans in the most egregious and out of control way, while her state is descending into anarchy and criminality and chaos. I don't even know what to say at this point. Well, one thing I wanted to ask, did your wife know that she would get in so much trouble? Like, or was this just a total blindside? Because I can just imagine, like, the sense of confusion when it's like, wait, you're charging me with what? Like, how did this hit you guys? And did she know this was coming down the pipe, or was this a total shock to y'all?
So we got married in June of 2021, and our daughter was born in May of 2022. So we try to do things the right way before God. We did do things the right way before God, right? And that summer, we decided to do a missions trip to Nigeria. And we did. We got back. That's when the indictment came, right? December of 2021. I think around November, we saw videos of the FBI breaking down doors of pro-lifers, right? And that moment I saw that, I'm like, okay, it's only a matter of time before they break down our door, because my wife's mouth she's passionate, right? She's loud. And so I stepped away for a second and I went to go pray. And I said, Lord, please don't let this happen to my family, right? I don't want this to happen to my wife. The door to get kicked down and our daughter to experience that. That did not happen. We got a phone call, and the phone call basically said they have to turn themselves in. And if they don't, then they're going to basically kick down your door. So the next day, my wife and Edme, they did that. They followed the laws. They turned themselves in. And when we got the discovery, it was shocking to me because they were watching us for so long. They contacted the Department of Homeland Security and said, okay, they're coming back from Nigeria this day, or their daughter was born this day. They were watching this for a very long time, and it was disgusting to me. I mean, um, uh, they even had got into our Facebook accounts, Instagram accounts, because my wife was um, indicted for conspiracy as well, where she was found not guilty for conspiracy. And they labeled me a co-conspirator throughout that time. And I couldn't get a job for like 2 years. You understand what I'm saying? So it was definitely a trial for us. It drew us closer together as a family. I mean, imagine just starting off a marriage, starting off a family, and this is happening. But it drew us closer to each other, drew us closer to God, and it made us really see what's happening in this country. And we all see what's happening with the President Donald Trump, and he has to get in. He has to get in office, and he has to do what he has to do in there. But it's it was shocking, but at the same time, we're like we're gonna beat this. We're innocent. You understand what I'm saying? We're innocent.
Yeah.
And the jury had to find my wife guilty beyond reasonable doubt, meaning she had to go there that day deliberately to smash someone's hand in the door.
Right.
Who in their right mind does that? Right? Who does that? And again, she did not chain herself to a door. She did not obstruct the door when there were counter protesters in front of the door. Where's their indictment?
Right.
Why weren't they indicted? So this is obviously selected. This is obviously a backlash for Roe v. Wade being sent back to the States. This is obviously
They want to make an example of her.
Example and shut her up. And it's kind of stupid because even throughout history, you look at those individuals and empires that try to shut up Christians, it only multiplies them even more. So it's like the voice even gets even stronger and louder. So yeah, and that's just the reality of it. Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party are a communist party, and it's really us here, and we can do what we want to do, and you can't say what you want to say. And if you say what you want to say and say anything about us, we're going to throw you in jail.
Yeah, I know that's literally what they're doing. And I hope you guys have some measure of comfort in knowing that you absolutely did the right thing, are guilty of nothing in the eyes of God other than standing up for what's right. And I think this needs to be a major topic that we need to bring up to Donald Trump any chance we have. Bev Williams needs to be pardoned and let out as soon as humanly possible. Follow Ricky Williams Jr. at Mr. Ricky Victory. Thank you so much for being with us. God bless you, sir.
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? It's going to be a long video. I guess I have to apologize, but hey, I have to get the truth out there some way. Now, with that being said, you have people, unfortunately, being jailed just for their speech. Now, but before that poor man's wife is in jail just for simply, I guess, praying from a damn abortion clinic. But they accuse him of false allegations, stuff like that. And now she has spent 41 months in jail for that, in prison for that. It's just so sad the woman didn't do anything wrong, exercising her right to prayer and stuff like that. But only because somebody accused her of slamming someone's hand in the fucking door. It's totally bazonker. We're in fucking clown world. We are literally in clown world, And Jack Robertson, I think the guy's name is, he's British, he's in Britain, and they sentenced him like 18 months in prison for a speech, basically, for holding a rally doing a documentary. Because England has this so-called extreme hate speech laws. You can rape a damn girl or kill somebody, and you'll do very little time because you're a legal immigrant. But if you're a British citizen and you say the wrong thing or do the wrong rally or do a documentary that they don't like, you're actually going to fucking prison to be beaten, tortured, and stuff. Thank God I'm not in England. I say that. And the sad part about it, my great-grandfather was British. He came from the boat from England to the United States back in the 1800s. So I hate to say that I am ashamed of the British blood I have inside of me. I really am. But besides all that, this election here, okay, you should see the writing on the wall. The cheat is in. The cheat is literally in. We knew the Democrats rigged the 2020 election. That's quite obvious. I like how Owen Shore said it best. I'm going to stitch this video in this one. The vote Viagra, basically. The vote Viagra is coming, okay? Now, what I've seen and understand, Trump and majority of the states is ahead right now. He's way ahead in a lot of states, He's ahead in Georgia, Nevada, he's ahead, basically, believe it or not. In Pennsylvania, he's ahead. And a few other states he's ahead. I'm not going to name them all. And a lot of the swing states, well, a lot of the blue states, got Trump and Kamala Harris nearly tied. Okay, so, you think that Trump's got a good chance of flipping a lot of blue states. But that's wait to be seen, and don't get your hopes up too high just yet. Don't get your hopes up high at all. I hate to tell you this. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Because as Orange Shore is going to point out to you, a lot of states say you can cast your ballot up to 3 days after Election Day. You understand what I'm saying? So you understand what I'm saying? So the first 90 days to election, they hardly did anything. All of a sudden, these court battles came out, and Democrats won the majority of them. Go figure. And appeal those cases or take up to the Supreme Court does take time. So they have to stall the elections. I believe this election won't be won by the vote. It'll be won in the damn court system. I guess the Supreme Court will have to step in and make the decision for us back in like they did in the year 2000 when Bush and Gore was running. But that's a whole different subject, whole different matter. So I'm not going into that right there. But what I'm saying is, you have all these fucking ballots being cast willy-nilly with no signature, no date, no nothing. This is a ballot there. They're going to fucking count it. And the Democrats know they need every fucking ballot counted as they can think of right now. Because the Democrats, I made an AI video. It didn't sound too intelligent. I apologize. I usually use like a grammar app to correct it to make it sound as intelligent as possible. But, But I hope you see the point. The Democrats think we're stupid. They think we're as educated as they are. They think we cannot make their own choices. So in their eyes, to save our so-called democracy, that they need to cheat and keep Trump out of office, ignoring the people's voices, basically. Okay? And they want Trump supporters, conservatives, and any right-leaning people to placed in re-education camps. I am not going to a re-education camp. The same reason I did not take the jab. Remember, Biden-Harris was pushing this jab, preaching this jab, threatening our jobs, livelihood. We didn't get this damn jab. I refused the jab. I didn't take a one. Too many Americans cowered in this, but I didn't. I stood firm and strong, did not take the jab. I did not lose my job. Matter of fact, I got a better job making more money. Okay? So I am thankful I never took that damn poison jab. Okay? But, we have here in America a huge pharmaceutical problem. That majority of the American people are some kind of pharmaceutical meds and stuff like that. And it's fucking just, it's doing something to their minds, I think, like that. That's why I got so much insanity going on in America. And what really gets me right here, one of the videos I posted is like, especially this one right here, is you have ballot boxes being catch on fire in Oregon and Washington State. Okay, so, you have these ballot boxes being burned. You have incinerated devices in these ballot boxes. So what the hell is going on? Why are people burning up ballot boxes for? And why are planting incinerated devices inside these ballot boxes? Why? Something is very fishy, and something's going on here that's just not right. It's just not. You understand what I'm saying? And like Trump said, and like a lot of people says, that if Trump loses this election, this be our last election. It might be our last election regardless who wins, because the Democrats are calling for civil war right now. Exactly is what they are doing. But, their only option in this election to keep Trump from winning, to keep Trump out of office, is they're going to cheat like no tomorrow, and they got these court cases on their side. So a lot of these states cannot clean up the voter rolls. They cannot, they have to count all ballots, regardless, So, you send a ballot with no signature, verified signature, no dates, no nothing. But for Kamala Harris, they're going to count it regardless. Okay? And, since they got 3 days since the after election to count ballots, guess what's going to happen? The Democrats are going to make sure that a lot of these key states that Trump needs to win, they'll make up enough ballots, recount ballots, and everything else to push Kamala Harris over the edge to give her 270. They're not looking for a landslide. They're not looking for a sweep. They're looking to get her at 270. That's all they are looking for. It could be 269 to 270. They don't care. Okay, that's a rough number. Or I say it could be 260 to 270. But as long as Kamala Harris gets 270, they don't care. They don't. They really don't. So, that being said, they're going to make sure Kamala Harris gets in that office one way or another. And by some miracle, if Trump can pull this off, if enough of us votes out there, I'm not saying please go vote, because it has to be too big to rig. If enough of us vote, we go in droves and keep voting, that they can't rig, in law states that they just can't rig it no matter what they do, that they have other tricks up their sleeves. Remember, too big to rig. We go up there and we get Trump at 270 some way, somehow. What's going to happen? They're not going to certify Trump. Congress will refuse to and disqualify him, basically, or try to. If Democrats take control of Congress, it'll be a nightmare. And they're already prepared for civil war to happen right now. They really are. Kamala Harris is an evil, vile woman that'll throw somebody in prison for any BS reason they can think of, It's like throwing parents in prison for truancy for the kids that missing too much school. Basically, because California is losing too much money. I hope you watched that video. Hope you watched it. Because she ruins a lot of people's lives as a Attorney General of California. You don't think she won't stop if they make her president, basically. And a lot of men are not voting for her because she's a female or female of color. They're not voting for her because she's an evil, tyrannical woman that's very fucking ignorant, that laughs like a hyena. And they're thinking that her and Gretchen Whitmire in Michigan goes to a bar, drinks a beer, they can attract more male votes. I'm sorry, going to a bar, drinking beer is not going to attract more male votes. Especially going to a damn bar and drinking like a damn fool. Basically. This is all scripted. Okay, very much so scripted. And remember, Kamala Harris will lead us to World War III. Because you keep pushing that war in Ukraine. You keep pushing for that war in Israel. And she had the military-industrial complex basically eaten out of her hand. She'd be more of a damn puppet because she'll do as she's told to do by the military-industrial complex in the deep state. Trust me. So here we are right now. Verge of Civil War, verge of World War III, all at the same damn time with wide open borders, dissolved borders. We have all these people here. We don't have no idea where they came from, what they're doing, or anything else, basically. And all they're trying to bring these people in here for is to vote Democrat. And that's it. Okay? Please check out the Orange Shore video. Explain it to you the best. All right? Peace and bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the InfoWars War Room, your election headquarters, with 7 days, 8 hours, and 52 minutes until the presidential election day. And we have huge election news today, maybe the biggest yet. As we get closer, and I suspect there'll be more and more. Is there still an October surprise? Did the Democrats act October surprise of Trump is Hitler, they're all Nazis? And then the latest, think about this. Remember the sexual accusations from last week? How did those stick? Not very well, did they? Come and went like nothing. Like an Eric Swalwell fart in the wind. Was that their October surprise? Do they have more coming? Is their October surprise the decision that was just made today in the Nevada courts? So I'm going to get into this latest news, the latest early voting results in the states where it still matters. We're starting to get a clear picture now. And then I'm going to do an update on the status with the path to 270 before we get into what the campaigns were up to this weekend. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the big one. As I've said, this election is going to be won and lost in the courts, not at the ballot box. The Democrats have had the court victories in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And with a week till Election Day, the Republicans have had no victories, and so I see no reason why Trump is going to win those states. None at all. He'll need at least 500,000. He'll need to win by 500,000 votes in Pennsylvania just to win by one vote. He'll need to win by 400,000 votes in Michigan to win by one vote. He'll need to win by 300,000 votes in Wisconsin to win by one vote. And even if that's the case, they'll find 2 mail-in ballots that weren't counted, and they'll count those both for Harris, and she'll win. Nothing has been done to win those states, unfortunately, despite all the efforts of Elon Musk and Scott Pressler and the RNC. Bless them, bless their hearts, bless their efforts. They're going to get stolen. I'm sorry to be the realist here. Donald Trump won Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania by a landslide in 2016 and then lost at 3:30 in the morning, even though he was leading those states all day long in 2020. We all saw what happened with the vote Viagra. Well, the vote Viagra is happening now with mail-in ballots. The vote Viagra is happening now, and it'll happen at 3:30 in the morning, too, if they need it. And nothing is going to stop them. Now, we'll see what the response is after, because that's the key difference. The response after they pulled that off in 2020 was not loud enough. And they had the loudest voices completely censored off the internet, like us here at InfoWars calling it out minute number 1. So okay, let's say they pull the vote Viagra. It likely won't be nearly as dramatic because they're already pulling the vote Viagra now. So instead of taking the vote Viagra at 3:30 in the morning, they're doing it right now during the early voting process so that it doesn't look as obvious. But okay, let's just say they do pull it off. You're going to have voices like Elon Musk leading the way, and it's going to be a mainstream story, and you'll probably have conservative media split 50-50 on who's willing to call out the steal and who's not. And you'll probably have more voices in the Republican Party that are going to stand loud and proud and saying they stole it than they did in 2020. So that will be the difference. Will it result in anything? I don't know. Will they be running scared over the insurrection claims and everything else? I don't know. Will another million people march to Washington, D.C.? I don't know. But at where it stands right now, I don't think Trump wins those states. The early voting numbers are already favoring the Democrats bigly. So I'm not an accelerationist, but maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe people need to see how bad it is that don't quite get it yet. But that's not the big news. We're building up to that. We're building up to how we're going to reach 270 here. In Virginia, Democrat judges, the Department of Justice says, nope, you cannot clear the voter rolls. So the hundreds of thousands of ineligible voters that the governor cleared off the rolls, the Democrats came in and said, nope, you can't do that. They get to vote. Well, why would they do that? Because they think they're Democrat votes, or they know they're Democrat votes, or they're Democrat votes that they're already banking on and they have sitting in a warehouse somewhere ready to go for Election Day. They tried to do the same thing in North Carolina. They're doing the same thing in Georgia right now. And then the judge comes out in Georgia, says the same thing, and says, oh, by the way, no hand counting of ballots either. We can't be having that. And we can't be allowing there to be an audit of the vote either. So no audits, no hand counts, no voter integrity. So, okay, that's where we built up. Trump needs to win Virginia, folks. Trump needs to win North Carolina, and Trump needs to win Georgia. Now, if you think he's going to win Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, then he doesn't. I don't believe that. Now today, and of course the legal battles in Arizona too. Now today, Nevada to count late arriving mail-in ballots, rejecting GOP lawsuit. The Nevada Supreme Court rules mail-in ballots without postmarks can be counted after Election Day. Whoa! You don't say. Well, guess what's happening in Nevada right now? The Republicans are winning. Donald Trump is winning. All early voting and mail-in ballots and absentee data that we can get access to, and it doesn't tell you who you vote for, but some states it tells you what party you're affiliated with or what party you requested a ballot through. And then you can just look at the regions, the counties it's coming in as well. The data we have from Nevada shows Trump is probably up 5 to 10 points, maybe more, but definitely 5 to 10. Oh, and then, what do you know? What do you know? The The Democrats come in, beat the Republicans in court, and say, we can count ballots as long as we want. Even if it's marked after Election Day. After Election Day. Unpostmarked ballots will count up to 3 days after the polls close. So the Democrats are going to be voting for 3 days after Trump wins Nevada. Now, notice how they're making all these decisions right before the election. Notice how they're making all these decisions just ahead or right as early voting is starting. They didn't want to make these decisions 90 days before the election. They're making them all now, so that the court battles couldn't be won, couldn't be stalled. But notice the attitude difference. Notice the attitude difference. So when it's clearing the voter rolls, they say, we can't do that. We can't do anything 90 days before the election. So when clearing the voter rolls would help Trump or hurt the Democrats, they say you're not allowed to do it. When counting unmarked ballots, counting late ballots, when that will help the Democrats, they say, oh, no, the 90-day rule doesn't apply here. Count them all day. Count them for 3 days. I mean, folks, this is outrageous. This is outrageous. And as I sit here, where's the big news on this? Where are the people talking about this? Where is the Republican Party coming out and talking about this? Again, the RNC, Michael Whatley just did another 30-minute interview today. Laura Trump spoke in Madison Square Garden. And Trump is live right now. We'll pick some of this up in Georgia. But this is more important right now because nobody is talking about this. I follow all the media. I follow the independent media, the mainstream media, all of it. Nobody's talking about this. And they're usually late to the party if they do. They finally picked up the Virginia story. They finally picked up the Georgia story. Everybody needs to know about this now. What they're doing in Nevada. This entire election could come down to Nevada. And they know it. And they're saying we can count votes 3 days late. This is insane. Oh, yeah. There's no time left on the clock, but why don't you go ahead and score a couple touchdowns until you get the lead, and then we'll call it the game. Insane. This election will not be won or lost at the ballot box. It will be won or lost in the courts. And the Republicans just took a major defeat in Nevada. Huge. Nevada was decided by tens of thousands of votes in 2020. And you don't think that the Democrats, with their vote mules and mail-in ballots getting shipped in mass to parking lots and everywhere else, if they're down by 20,000, say, on election night, you don't think they'll find 25,000 for Harris? I mean, what else do you think is going on here, folks? What else do you think is going on here? And so this is the problem as well with early voting, is it gives them an idea of how many votes they need, or it gives them an idea of, oh, we're losing in these states, we need to get out. We need to get work done. But again, I understand why people early vote as well. So it's a catch-22. So this now reverses all the victories. So Republicans were winning in the courts in Nevada. Now they just got dealt this massive defeat. You also have these wild stories with ballot boxes going up in flames in Oregon, in Washington. They'll probably end up blaming that on a Trump supporter. Ballot boxes in Oregon and Washington, state set on fire, under investigation. I mean, honestly, though, it's like the perfect... I mean, that's your 2024 election right there. I mean, it's just up in flames. The thing is a joke. These mail-in drop boxes, mail-in a ballot, official ballot drop box, and then the Democrats win in court, and you're not even allowed to have surveillance. So think about that. There's no surveillance over these drop boxes. So you can't even go and look at the footage of who did it. The Democrats ruled in court, no surveillance over the ballot drop boxes. How convenient. And so now somebody just goes and burns one down and you can't even find who did it because they made surveillance illegal. And then when you file a FOIA request from local police to get it, they say, "Oh, it's gone. We don't have it." Because we caught them in 2020. Because Dinesh D'Souza caught them in 2020. Just like the same thing that happened when they got caught in 2020 and people got arrested because their fingerprints were identified on fraudulent ballots. Their fingerprints. Then they started showing up wearing gloves. There's your image of your 2024 election right there. A mail-in official ballot drop box on fire. Oh, we don't know. Oh, is your vote going to count? Oh, we have no idea. Who did it? I don't know. Surveillance is illegal. It's a joke. And we're going to sit here and talk about election integrity. We're going to sit here protecting our democracy. So, oh boy, if you had your mail-in ballot in that drop box, what do you think is going to happen to that? Nice. Real safe way to vote. This whole thing is a joke. This whole deal is a joke, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this is real, and we didn't cover this because, I mean, it was obviously fake to me day one. Now they're saying it was Russian. It was a Russian fake. U.S. intelligence says Russia is behind video of ballots being destroyed in Pennsylvania. U.S. intelligence officials have confirmed that a viral video spreading online showing mail-in ballots being destroyed in the key battleground suburb of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, is a hoax perpetuated by Russia as a part of its effort to elect Donald Trump. Yeah, there's your Russian collusion. It's Russian collusion again. It's sex accusations again. It's Trump is Hitler again. Here we go again. Here we go again. Early in-person voting and absentee ballots. By the way, 1.5 million absentee ballots in Michigan. 1.5 million. Does that seem a little high? Seem a little high to you? 1.5 million absentee? Where are they all going? What are the people in Michigan doing? They're not in Michigan, apparently. 1.5 million absentee ballots. And then in-person voting, it's almost all being done in Detroit. This is bad news. But Trump's winning in the polls. Trump's winning in the polls in Michigan. Trump's polling so well in Michigan. He's polling better than he ever has in Michigan. Cool. You don't get it yet, do you? Now, I got to say, the gap in Pennsylvania has been closed. This was a big development over the weekend. Mail-in and absentee ballots. 1.5 million mail-in and absentee ballots combined in Pennsylvania, but somehow Michigan has 1.5 million absentee ballots by itself. Okay. The gap has closed. And while it's still going to be a couple 100,000, the gap has closed in Pennsylvania. Now, I would say Trump has to win Pennsylvania by 500,000 votes to win, which he might be able to do. But then they'll find, if Trump wins by 500,000 votes, he'll win by 1 vote, and then they'll find 2 mail-in ballots for Harris at 4 o'clock in the morning and then declared for Harris. So, but the numbers have been bad, really bad. I mean, disastrous in Pennsylvania for Trump. Over the weekend, things started to balance out a little bit. So now the gap looks like it's maybe about 200 to 300,000. So, but Trump has to win Pennsylvania by 500,000 to win it by 1. I wouldn't count on it, though. I would not count on Pennsylvania because they lost all the court battles, and the Democrats have 10-1 poll watchers, which is totally illegal, by the way. I mean, just cut and dry, totally lawless, totally illegal. They don't care. They're counting mail-in ballots after Election Day. That's what I'm saying. Like, people don't get it. There is no fair and balanced election. It doesn't exist. Now, you can try to work the courts and the rules and massage it as much as possible to try to get the closest thing to a real result. But there's no fair and balance. There's no real election anymore. There's so much fraud. I mean, it's a joke. No surveillance of drop boxes. No voter ID signature verification. No address signature verification. We'll count mail-in ballots 3 days late. We don't care when you vote. Give me a break. Drives me nuts. Drives me nuts that people aren't talking about this. But that's part of the problem. It happens, and they mostly get away with it. The mainstream media doesn't cover it. I mean, most people are riding high on the vibes right now. Hey, I get it. Trump's kicking ass. He's more popular than ever. The rallies are bigger than ever. This rally in Madison Square Garden was amazing. It was awesome. I'm here for the good times. I'm loving it. I want the happy ending. I'm living the highs, but I'm in the lows as well. But if you sit here and live in the highs all day, that's when they steal it like they did in 2020. Because it was the same garbage in 2020. His rally side, oh my God, Biden's so bad. And then what happened? And then who was bold enough to even talk about it the next day? That'll be the big difference here. So people are still buying that there's going to be some semblance of a fair election here. They're still buying that. They haven't learned the hard way there, but they'll definitely, if Trump loses, won't believe it. And we got some follow-up clips on that we'll explain too. North Carolina, the numbers continue to be good. North Carolina, the numbers continue to be good for Donald Trump with early in-person voting and mail-in ballots. So North Carolina has not changed. So with this, let's conclude here with a couple minutes left in the segment. Guys, can we pull up 270 to win? I hope we have it ready to go here. We're going to give you an update on where it stands with 1 week till election. Man, but see, we're already in the election. So we got to be careful how we even talk. We are in the election right now. The election is ongoing right now. The vote Viagra for Kamala Harris is going on right now. We are in it. And the court battles are favoring the Democrats in these key states now. All right, so here we go. This is really where we're at. Put Virginia, toss up. Put Georgia, toss up. Put Nevada, toss up. Yeah, I'd say that's maybe you could put Arizona toss up, but I don't think so. I don't think that. I mean, I'd love to put Arizona as a toss up, but it's just like, I mean, you could throw New Hampshire as a toss up even, because there's some poll numbers indicating that those could be a toss up. This is where you stand right now, and if you follow this, you know in the past I've had Virginia, Georgia, and Nevada red. Not anymore. Now the Democrats have had court battles and won in Virginia and Georgia and Nevada, and now they're toss-ups. And that's what's going on. And where is your Republican leadership? Glenn Youngkin? Okay. Glenn Youngkin has come out and made statements and said, nope, we're not going to let this happen. So let's assume then we can get Virginia by miracle. All right, go ahead and chalk Virginia up for Trump. You're still short, and you need Nevada and you need Georgia. What have you heard from Republican leadership in Georgia or Nevada? Have you heard anything? Now, this ruling in Nevada just came out today, so maybe we'll give the Republican leadership there some time. In Georgia, this has been over a week since the judge said no audits, no hand counts, no nothing. And the Democrats are dominating in early voting right now. And where's the Republican leadership saying anything about it? Nothing. They've said nothing. So this is where we're at right now, folks. This is your current status.
Today.